Hey all, implicitly Zoomer here. The most important things happen 3 times in life. In primary school, Smallville was on Channel 4, and I'd very rarely watch it because I thought it was way too scary and sexy, although nowadays I do scratch my head over the former. But in contrast, as a teenager, I watched it religiously from season 7 onwards, and now as an adult, I watched it again, and despite all of its flaws and wonkier stuff, I absolutely adored it. It's not Shakespeare by any means, but it's got some of my favourite live-action versions of these characters, Jonathan, Lex, and Lois.
Dad?
Yeah?
Thanks for always believing in me.
You're welcome, son.
It's also got some of my favourite Superman moments ever, and every time I see my complete DVD collection, I feel something in my pants. Smallville is 10 seasons, organised by season-long arcs, which are often MacGuffin-focused. And before you ask, yes, it does get very repetitive. Furthermore, there's also a duality to the show, because it's an early 2000s program that's on a precipice of great change. On one hand, it's very episodic to the extent that it can be pretty maddening to watch. Like Clark's girlfriend, Alicia, dies. He's deeply heartbroken and traumatized. Then the next episode he's fine and he's more interested about f***ing football. But on the other hand, Smallville is also very ambitious with its character work that's very carefully built over the course of years, like a great novel about 2 boys becoming men. A kid from a family that fosters community and responsibility, and the other raised with a belief in competition and selfishness. But both don't know their futures. However, the fact that we know that they're destined to become larger-than-life mythical symbols, it only makes their ignorance all the more poignant. In season 1, it opens with a child being told to withhold his emotions by his resentful father, and another child is adopted by a couple who couldn't have a child of their own. When these boys eventually meet as young men, Baldy Boy smashes into him with his car, an accident that should have killed the both of them, but it doesn't. And it's this supposed miracle that forms a connection out of curiosity, but also envy, balance, and obsession. And this is the magic of the show, their relationship. Lex Luthor loves Clark Kent because he offers him a reliable connection outside of his usual chess game business-related relationships.
We're in business to make profits, not friends!
And also gives him an opportunity to live like a real teenager, dealing with school crushes and self-esteem issues.
I wanted to take my shot with Lana, but now...
You feel like you'd be taking advantage.
What would you do?
I go for it. See, but that's what I like about you, Clark. You wouldn't.
In contrast, Clark likes Lex because of his experience. Unlike his parents, he's closer in age, so his advice is more specific. And unlike his school friends, Chloe and Pete, he's older, so he's genuinely wiser.
Clark, thanks for stopping by. It means a lot.
What are friends for?
As a result, they're also dudes living life through each other, and it's very, 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 very homoerotic.
We are the future, Clark. And I don't want anything to stand in the way of our friendship.
The third major party is Lana Lang, the girl next door, close to home, yet unreachable. In the beginning, this is literally due to a kryptonite necklace. How subtle.
So what are you? Man or Superman?
She's the love interest of Clark Kent, and eventually Lex Luthor. Then both, and either you love her or you hate her, depending on how much you like your daytime soap operas. For me, I can't look at her impartially because she's part of my childhood. Regardless, Clark and Lex's relationship in this season is about defying your nature by befriending what isn't you. We see this through stories of 2 people raised by opposing values, protecting each other from evil teenagers who can control bees. However, their secrets also plants the seed of their destruction.
Why would your father be against the plant?
We have a complicated relationship, Clark. My father wants me to believe it's built on trust, but it's not. It's built on lies and deceit. Any relationship with that foundation is destined to fail. Lucky we don't have that problem.
Lucky us.
Season 2 is my favourite during the first 5 seasons of the show, mainly because everything just feels balanced. Lex and Clark are allowed to just be friends who respect each other's boundaries, and there's a really consistent theme throughout each episode that interrogates the ethics of keeping secrets, specifically through the pattern of fatherhood. Both Clark and Lex inherited distrustful instincts from Jonathan and Lionel. As a result, secrets are presented as a shield that protects family, but also destroys relationships and fosters animosity.
So he's not a part of our lives because of me?
Son, every young man wants to have a relationship with his grandpa. But in your case, it just may not be possible.
One of the coolest things about Smallville's Clark Kent is that in the same way he inherited his best qualities from Jonathan, like his altruistic values, honest work ethic, and protectiveness of others, he also inherited his worst side too. From his bad temper to his obsession with privacy, to the point that it inhibits him from understanding how much it hurts other people. Beyond blood, he is very clearly his father's son.
Believe me, son, I know all there is to know about losing your temper. His normal life is over. But you can't afford to do it. But once you've crossed that line, there's no going back.
Similarly, but with blood, Lex is a Machiavellian competitive murderer like his father, but he tries not to.
Trying to avoid becoming my father.
Luthers are not afraid.
We all have certain genes that no matter how much we want to change, dominate us.
But he also can't help himself. He can't help but to investigate how Clark survived the car crash, despite his protests. Therefore, what both kids share is a desire to live beyond the limitations of their fathers and become someone who doesn't just preserve their family's name but build their own legacies, which can improve those around them in the present.
School plays, camping trips, backyard activities. I wanted you to see our family the way I do.
However, truth is also an existential nightmare, not to sound too pretentious, because this is where the villain comes in. It's not Lex nor Lionel, but the invisible power of destiny.
Better if you'd not helped me.
Or as Clark would define it,
Destiny is another word for not having a choice.
Lex saved his father, but he'd rather be dead after becoming blind, and they become rivals, which makes Lex a worser person. Clark meets with Dr. Swan, played by Christopher Reeve, who, if you think about it, is a symbolic popular culture father for all of us. He gives Clark the right answers about his home Krypton, but this also leads to Clark learning about being sent to conquer Earth by Jor-El.
I think I was sent here to conquer. What kind of planet am I from?
Furthermore, it's also revealed that Jonathan had to make a deal with Lionel to get Clark's fake adoption papers, which resulted in Pete's farm being messed up. This is the origin for why the Kents deeply distrust and dislike the Luthors. The sins of the fathers are inherited by their children, and it's these feelings that becomes the prison bars for Clark and Lex, and it's the reason why eventually their friendship slowly disintegrates. They settle with the walls they've created for each other, and turn their mutual respect into an open secret of manipulation.
I don't even think it's from this planet.
Think aliens wrote it? I'd keep that to yourself, Lex.
The tragedy is that if either of them disobeyed their fathers and fully trusted the other, then division and eventually animosity would have never come to define them. In the end, as an act of defiance, Clark refuses to leave home for his training with his biological father and destroys the ship that brought him to Earth, but that causes Martha to lose her new pregnancy. To fight destiny is to be punished by the universe itself, while Lex's new wife backstabs him. Season 3 is the dark chapter in the high school era, and it's pretty goofy in 2022 because disenchanted Clark with red kryptonite expresses his pain through a leather jacket, motorcycle, and sunglasses. The Clark we once knew is gone. Until they remove the red kryptonite, of course. Anyways, this is a season about losing your innocence. Clark's secret has hurt everyone. Lana tries to move on from him and develop trust issues with everyone else. Chloe becomes an enemy for a moment, and Pete is a loyal BFF who's in on the secret, but that begins to make him feel deeply insecure and gives him great pain.
What are you talking about? You're good at a lot of things.
Like what?
Like basketball. You got a killer jump shot. You've beat me plenty of times.
Yeah, when you're not using your powers.
Clark and Lex is also now on unspoken thin ice, as their patience for each other's secrets has become settled disappointment.
You always tell me how you don't want to turn into your father, and I truly believe that. But the more you two go at each other, the more like him you become. And the more people get hurt.
As a result, there's a real sense of cynicism that looms over the season as unforgotten crimes are in focus. A standout bit of character work here is Lex's obsession with Julian, the little brother he would have had when he was 11 years old. But his mother knew Lionel, being the f***ing asshole he is, would pit his children against each other.
I see how you treat Alexander, chipping away at his spirit.
Because you have made him weak.
So she killed him out of postpartum depression. Lex took the blame to protect her, but eventually forgot his own innocence. Therefore, this trauma is why he loves Clark. He completes a part of him that he always felt missing, and is also deepened by the fact that he spent all of his birthdays alone, because everyone hated him. But then, Lionel taught him to lock away his doubts and feelings in a box, including his trauma.
Take all your fears and your doubts in here, and then you lock it.
Therefore, when Lex reopens it decades later, the revelation overwhelms Lionel with regret over his treatment of his own son, who leaves him.
Things would been so different between us.
In tears. Lex is a byproduct of nothing but sheer cruelty, repression, and unwarranted resentment. In contrast, when Clark remembers his mother Lara for the first time, he discovers his biological parents weren't monsters but loved him.
Her only fear was that no one would love me.
Destiny is pretty f***ing unfair. So in the end, Lana leaves for Paris, Lex testifies against his father, and Pete leaves Smallville, which gives a pretty tangible example to why Clark's secret isn't a gift, but a burden.
There's a lot of things that I can handle, but I could never live with myself if I betrayed you.
While Clark leaves Lex after Lionel gives him the key to his secret room that is all about him. Everyone was so late acting for those they love that everyone becomes something else now. This season started out pretty inconsistent, I thought, but it ends very, very strongly because it embraces a more serialized structure as opposed to just the freak of the week deal. Season 4 opens 3 months later and reintroduces everything through Lois Lane, who finds Clark nude in the cornfields. By the way, I love Margot Kidder, Bitsy Tulik, and obviously Amy Adams. But Erica Durance is my favorite Lois Lane by a landslide, largely because of one simple factor. She's fucking hysterical. Smallville Lois Lane is a party-driven, spunky, cynical, tough, pop culture referencing, energetic, facetious, rude, bossy, and unstoppable being who represents the sexual maturity that Clark isn't ready for, because he's still in his first love phase. Therefore, right now, he's just irritated.
Lois, we want you to know that you are welcome back here anytime.
Actually,
We'll all miss you, Lois.
However, within that irritation is an attraction, because they're so comfortable with each other. Anyways, season 4 is one of reflection, to finally chase down lost opportunities and connect with who you really are. For Lex, this comes in his growing attraction towards Lana, because he's impressed by her ability to give life to something that seemed dead, the cafe talent. So their love is one of mentorship, redemption, inspiration, and also shared disenchantment from Clark's fucking secrets. A purity that initially draws greatness from the both of them. Lex is also dying from poison and must have his blood purified regularly, which is never mentioned ever again. For Clark, he has a deep desire to play American football, which is a real welcome change, so he's not just pining for Lana all the time. Margot Kidder also arrives to talk to Martha Kent for a second, and this is totally rad if you're an original OG Superman fan, because it's friggin' Christopher Reeve era Lana and Lois talking. Unfortunately, Lex and Clark enters shaky grounds, which on one hand feels really irritating. The show did a great job presenting their decline, but it hadn't reached to this level of coldness.
I really need to get to helping my parents. Good luck, Lex.
Especially since Clark has been exploiting Lex's ignorance and has been using him more as a resource than a friend for multiple seasons now. So from just a few mistakes, it all breaks up. But on the other hand, if you squint, it kinda works, because Lex is very desensitized from Clark's love, and often has to lie to get what he wants, because everyone keeps denying him the truth. And you could also say Clark is becoming more like Jonathan, a dude with no fucking patience. Furthermore, secrets are not boundaries like in the previous seasons, but is a toxic parasite that tears away relationships in fatalistic ways. Clark's mistrust of Alicia, a former bad guy, gets her killed. Therefore, he learns that he has a responsibility to let the world know of his powers eventually, so everyone wouldn't be so quick to judge others that are different. He also almost murders her killer, while Chloe discovers Clark's powers and tears down her wall of the weird. This is the end of school.
I want you to know that I'm here for you.
Clark realizes he can't play American football and go to university with a scholarship because he'll have to lie on every single test. And eventually, he can also fall in love with his own powers selfishly. This is a first step of tremendous change for him.
Decision you made, son, it shows integrity well beyond your years.
The last episode is his graduation, where a new meteor shower interrupts the ceremony, and Clark must get all the artifacts to stop it. Obviously he does. Jonathan makes an amazing speech about raising his son for this very specific moment, telling him to make them proud.
All the years that your mother and I spent raising you from a wide-eyed toddler running around on this farm to the man who is standing in front of me right now was for this moment.
And we end on Clark creating the Fortress of Solitude. By the way, during the season, Lana Lang and Jensen Ackles were dating, but he leaves, goes nuts, and gets hit by a meteor. So, great digression, very necessary, great payoff too. Season 5, if you summarize it, is effectively about one word: regret. Regret as the last gasp of an old life. It opens with the new Fortress of Solitude as Jor-El declares,
"One journey is ended, a new journey is about to begin.
which then leads to the new opening sequence with the shattering glass effect as opposed to the really weird looking early 2000s giant head plus green screen look. I cannot stress how much I love the new intro. It's like my fucking childhood in 60 seconds. Lex wants to reset Clark's friendship.
I hope he can rebuild more than just the town. So do I.
So for the third time we're doing this again, and I wish they could have flipped the dialogue for once. Regardless, it doesn't work, and Clark has no time for their fucking game of secrets.
Were you in the cave when the meteors hit?
No.
But in one of the best episodes ever, Lexmas, Lex Luthor gets shot. He wakes up in a dream where all he wanted is materialized. Married with kids with Lana, he's left his money, he helped Chloe with her book, and she got together with Clark Kent. So in his dreams, deep down inside, Lex wishes for the best for his friends. While in real life, Clark spends time with a disenchanted Santa Claus. It's like the most Christmassy fucking episode ever. A boy who believes as much as Santa spends time with him, and we have a reverse It's a Wonderful Life going on. Lex also, more importantly, wishes he was treated like a son by Jonathan and is given a humanitarian award.
I couldn't be prouder of you if you were my own son.
This is what happens if he followed his heart, not ambition. To be a husband, brother, and even gain the respect of a better father. But destiny denies this. As Lana begins to die from childbirth, Lex comes begging to Lionel to get a specialist to help him. But due to a resentful Lionel who's angry over Lex losing the Senate, because during the whole season he's running for it against Jonathan Kent, and that was some sort of main conflict in the background, he's rejected. However, in reality, Lionel actually didn't want him to win. But Lex's fear and hatred poison his impression of him, so as Lex watches Lana die, he reawakens with his love as a cold ambition.
And do you know what the secret to living happily ever after is? Power. Money. See, once you have those two things, you can secure everything else.
His heart shrinks a few sizes. Also, Santa Claus might be real. Throughout this season, Clark is regularly procrastinating his destiny. He was able to temporarily worm his way into losing his powers by going back against his word for Jor-El, so he can be finally happy with Lana, but it doesn't really hit him until episode 100, Reckoning. Clark finally reveals the truth to Lana and proposes to her.
I guess it's just hard looking over at your son and realizing you're talking to a man who doesn't need his father's advice anymore.
Jonathan is about to win the Senate.
Has just been elected.
While Lex is heartbroken, he saw winning the Senate as a chance to define himself finally outside of his father. So he gets drunk and chases Lana, causing a car accident, causing her death. Clark decides to save her using a time-traveling crystal. Therefore, this time, he doesn't tell her the truth, which alienates her so much that she puts the relationship on hold. History then repeats itself, but this time, Lana and Lex are there to comfort each other. While during Jonathan's victory, Lionel appears before him as his major donor. Although later on it's actually revealed his intentions were actually good. Jonathan beats the shit out of him, but as a result, his heart finally gives out. Destiny demands tragedy in Clark's life. Therefore, during the funeral, as everyone leaves, Clark stays. The boy had let go of his childhood dream, his childhood love, and now his father. He is a man now. Then there's kind of a goofy story arc going on in the background with Zod possessing Lex's body. It's an amazing performance, by the way. Michael Rosenbaum is the best actor, I think, in the show, and easily the best Lex Luthor in general. In this universe, Zod destroyed Krypton, and as the world riots, as electricity goes out, Chloe and Lionel are attacked. Zod Lex makes out with Lana as Clark is trapped in the Phantom Zone. It's a very scary, crazy cliffhanger that's resolved very, very quickly in the opening of the next season. And that's just kind of Smallville. On a big picture storytelling level, the first half of Smallville is a tragedy about sons being punished by destiny because they must become like their fathers. But they also become great men as they develop the strength to discover and enforce their own convictions confidently. The show hasn't aged perfectly, it's rough in a lot of places. Upon revisiting it, it's like the most early 2000s show ever. You've got people that are clearly in their mid to late 20s playing 16-year-olds, constant licensed rock music that are nowadays turned into memes or unironically played in the background. I can't stress how fucking charming this show is. But also, unironically, there's a richness to it, to its characters, and to the genuine melancholic tone to its journey. More than being a story about Superman and Lex Luthor, it's about brothers who don't know their futures, but a shadow looms over them regardless. This shadow becomes all the more prominent in the second half of the show. To be continued. So that was the Smallville video, which was in production for quite a while since the Batman Halloween DC Defined video. I was stuck not knowing how it should be done. Should it be split into 2 videos or just be one big one? Should I focus more on themes or psychology theories, because I had a whole thing where I wanted to bring in effective forecasting again, but I ended up splitting into 2 videos and making it more theme based, just because probably more interesting for more people. Furthermore, there's a story that exists within the first half of the show that's quite complete on its own, so the objective was to cultivate and present that story here, and you know, the more original analysis and new stuff will be in the second video. Anyways, special thanks to everyone on Patreon. You guys rock my world, and the Life is Strange video should be coming soon.
Lo, you failed the last semester.
Sorry about just walking around, but the outside door was unlocked.
Actually, it looked broken to me, but I'll have a word with my security people.